Alright, in this video we're going to still be talking about systems of equations, but we're going to talk about the elimination method, which I believe once you see how to do this is going to be the method of choice that you choose to use for solving these, because graphing is going to end up being the hardest since some of these equations are not really nice when you have fractions and you can't really graph fractions that accurately. And substitution takes too many steps once you see how quick this method is going to get you to the answer. So while some of them may be set up to substitute and actually work out faster, if it is not already set up to substitute, I would probably try elimination. So in order for you to get comfortable with it, let's try a few. The whole idea here is to cancel either x or y when you add both the equations together, or subtract the equations if you want to think of it that way. And what I'm talking about is, like, if I have negative 2x plus something something and then positive 2x plus something something, those two are going to cancel and make 0, just like negative 2 and positive 2 would cancel and give you 0. Same thing with y. If maybe I want to cancel y out, because it doesn't matter in this case when we're doing elimination which one you cancel, so it's up to you. Negative and positive 3 are going to cancel to give you 0, just like negative and positive 3 without the y would cancel and give you 0. So let's get going and I'll kind of talk you through it as we go. So the first step I want you to try is to see if maybe, imagine you could add these from this step without doing anything. Would something cancel? Well, in this case, sure will, because look at, you've got a negative 4x and you've got a positive 4x. And we know that a negative 4 plus a positive 4 will cancel to give you 0. So something right off the bat here will cancel. Now, that's not always going to be the case, but if you see something like that, that's a pattern that we like to look for, is if you've got a negative and a positive of the same term, then go ahead and eliminate it. It's set up for you to do so. So at this point, we're going to add these two equations together. We just said that the x's are going to cancel out, so no more x's. Then we're just going to add straight down. So negative 2y plus 8y is going to be a 6y. And we're going to do it to the other side of the equation as well. So negative 12 minus 24 is a negative 36. Well, if you keep solving this, you see there's only one variable, so I can go ahead and solve for y. Y is going to equal a negative 6. Well, remember, when you have systems, when we go graph them, one of the cases is you have a point as a solution. So we just found the y value of that intersection point. We've got to go find what this x value is, though, because we're not done. We have to know what that x is. So we're going to take this y value we just found and come back up to one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. They'll both work. And plug it in to find x. So let's just take the bottom one since they're all positive on the left-hand side. We'll do 4x plus 8 times negative 6 equals negative 24. So this is 4x minus 48 equals negative 24. And we're just going to keep working it like we've been practicing. And if this is foreign to you, that means you have not practiced enough. So go back and look at this video about solving equations again. So 48 minus 24 is 24. Divide by 4. I'm getting down to the bottom, sorry. X is going to be equal to 6. So we're going to plug that back up in here. So our solution, if we were to go graph these two lines would cross at 6, negative 6. And if you want to go and check and see if this solution is actually correct, like we talked about before, you can plug these points that we find for solutions back in. And I'm not going to do it fully, but just to show you what I'm talking about, we would go plug in 6 for x in the top equation and negative 6 for y. And trying to see if we simplify that down, if you get negative 12 equals negative 12, a true statement. And same thing, you've got to check for the other one too, because it's got to work in both. 4 times 6 plus 8 times negative 6 equals negative 24. And if that is negative 24 on this side equals negative 24, you got a true statement, you're good. So that would be checking it out to make sure it's right. But we'll go ahead and assume it is for this case. Alright, next one. Alright, so if you ask yourself on this one, if we add something at this current moment, if something will cancel, the answer again is yes. If you notice, x and 2x won't cancel, but you have a negative y and a positive y. So a negative 1y and a positive 1y are going to cancel. Again, don't expect this to happen every time, but that's what you want to look for because that makes life easy if they're already set up. So don't go and try another method if you see that. So look for that to happen. So in this case, we can go ahead and keep going. So x plus 2x is 3x. The y's are canceled now. And then 11 plus 19 is 30. So we're going to divide both sides by 3 and get x. X is 10. Well, again, that's one part of your solution. That's the x value. We need to go find the y value of this point. because it's a point we're looking for. So we're going to go take this 10 and plug it back into one of these equations for x. And again, it doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick the top one. So I'm going to say 10, since that's x, minus y equals 11. Well, I need to go subtract 10. And again, don't forget this negative. That's attached to y, so you can't just forget about it. Bring them down. Negative y equals 1. Well, then I need this y to be positive. We don't ever deal with negative variables as answers, and so I need to divide both sides by negative 1 so that I can flip this sign, because a negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. So y is going to be a negative 1 now. So your point, if you were to go graph this, would be 10, negative 1, where the solution would be if you went and found the cross point. Alright, on this one, if you ask yourself if something's going to cancel right off the bat, hopefully you're seeing not right now, but we are pretty darn close to getting it to cancel. So hopefully you're noticing the x's are kind of out. They would take a lot of work to get to cancel. But the y's, you've got one y and one y. The only problem is they're both positive. We need one of them to be negative. So that's an easy fix. We're just going to go multiply one of them by a negative 1, the whole equation. As long as I do it to both sides, I'm good. And it doesn't matter which one you do either, which is the awesome part. So we're going to go basically flip the signs of that first one. We're going to have a negative 8x now, minus y, which is why we just did all this to get a negative y, equals a positive 16. Now at this point, if you forget about that first equation, if you ask yourself, is something going to cancel if I go add them? Sure is, because we set it up that way. We wanted the y's to cancel, and they will. So now negative 3x plus a negative 8x is a negative 11x. And on the other side, since the y's cancel, we're going to skip over them. 16 minus 5 is 11. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 11. So x equals negative 1. Again, that's only part of your solution. So negative 1 is your x value. Alright, that means we need to go to him now and plug him back into one of your equations. And again, doesn't really matter. You could even go back up to this first one that I've crossed out to plug it back in. So let's just do the negative 3x plus y one. So we're going to have negative 3 times a negative 1 plus y equals negative 5. So this is a positive 3 plus y equals negative 5 minus 3 on both sides. Y equals negative 8, and that's what goes back up top up here. So the solution here for this system is negative 1, negative 8. Alright, so on this one you're going to ask yourself the same question that we've been asking. If we were to add these two together right now, would something cancel? And I don't see anything, hopefully you don't see anything. But we need to start thinking of what we could do to get them to cancel and which variable would be the easiest to cancel. And I'm thinking the y, because if I want to cancel x, there's no number that I can multiply by 2 to get 7, and there's no number I can multiply by 7 to get 2. So if I wanted to get x to cancel, I would actually have to multiply both equations by some number to get them to a number to where it's the same. But I can turn this 1y up top into a 3y pretty easily by multiplying this whole equation by a 3. But I don't want to just multiply by a positive 3 because that's going to give me a 3y and a positive 3y. I need one of them to be negative. So I'm going to multiply by a negative 3. So let's see what happens when we do that. We get negative 3 times negative 7, which is a positive 21x. We get a negative 3 times y, which is negative 3y. Again, the whole reason we were doing that, to get those two to cancel. And then we've got a negative 3 times a negative 19, which is negative 57, positive 57, I'm sorry. So now if we add these together, notice what we wanted to happen happens. We can add and cancel out the y's. Then we've got 21 minus 2, think of it as subtraction, which will be 19x. And then we've got 57 minus 19 on the other side, which is 38. So the y's cancel. So now I need to divide both sides by 19. So x is going to equal 2. So again, once you get here, you need to go choose one of these equations to plug back into to finish out this point. It's 2 something. So let's choose the negative 2x one. Negative 2 times 2 plus 3 times y equals negative 19. So I have negative 4 plus 3y equals negative 19. I've got to then add 4 to both sides. So 3y equals, and that one's going to be negative 15. Divide by 3. So y equals negative 5. So plug him back in, and there's your solution. And again, if you want to go check, make sure they're right, plug them back in, make sure you get 2 true statements. Alright, but at this point, I want to leave you to try some. Number 3 is a challenge problem. We didn't go over one just like it, but I think you could probably work your way through it, and I do have the answers later on. So don't worry too much. Try it. I want you to try all 3. Just fiddle with it. About whatever you think. Just try something. And if you get stuck, just keep your stuff on your paper. Don't erase it so you can see what I did and compare. Alright, but level 1 and level 2 you should be able to do because we did some like those. If you still need to see it again, go back and rewind the video. But at this point, pause, write these examples down, and see what you can do. Alright, here's your answers, and kind of follow the flow top to bottom and where I draw arrows. This one is almost ready to cancel out. I've made you a note over here. Hopefully you saw that the Y's were what you wanted to cancel to make it easier. One of them just needed to be turned negative. And again, if you made the top one negative, it should, in the end, give you the same answer. So if my work doesn't match yours completely, as long as you got the final answer like I did, you should be good. Alright, if you didn't, go back and check your work to make sure that you made everything negative. Maybe you forgot to turn the 16 positive. If you did the top equation, but just go back and double check. On this one, you could have eliminated x pretty easily if you had multiplied the bottom equation by 4 like I did, or if some of you decided to cancel y was almost set up to cancel if you had gone and multiplied this bottom equation by 3 so that you would have ended up with a negative 9 that would have canceled with the positive 9 up top. So 2 different ways to solve this. Both of them should have given you the same answer. If not, please go back and check. And if you still can't figure out where you went wrong, come see me. Alright, and on this one, the challenge one, there was no number that you could have multiplied the top one by to get something on the bottom and vice versa. So what I'm looking at here is I'm going to have to multiply both equations by some number to get something to cancel. So I chose to cancel the y's. You could have chose to cancel anything else. The x could have worked too. So I'm going to multiply the top one by negative 5 and the bottom one by 2 because that looks like I could turn both those y's into 10s, one of them being positive, one of them being negative. So here's my new equations once I did that and set up what I wanted right here, the cancellation of the y's, and then keep working. You should get the negative 2, negative 4. Now, if you did cancel the x's, make sure you got this same answer, and if you did, that means you did it right, because there's multiple ways to solve these problems. Don't think that my way is the only way. Alright, so if this still needs some practice, go online and find you some extra practice on USA Test Prepper somewhere, or come see me for some extra practice, and until next time, keep practicing.